Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to PolymerCityRecords.com. It's 10 Cent Beer Night, the Wednesday night sports show of Polymer City Records, every Wednesday night, 7:30, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in Akron, Ohio. It is February 17th, and we have two co-hosts with me tonight, not just one. We've got Baseball Bob, as you know, and we got our good old friend, Handy Randy Lipscomb.
Hey.
From the Handy Randy
Hey,
show.
I'm looking around. Where is the 10-cent beer?
Oh,
I said 10-cent beer. That's why I'm here.
1974.
1974.
That's where we got the name for it.
And real quick, we want to wish the Browns legend Jim Brown a happy birthday today. And speaking of birthdays, Randy, your mother turned 100 the other day. That's impressive.
100.
That's
She raised 4 boys. Can you imagine the agony that we put that poor woman through? And she still made it to 100 years.
That's
I'll
impressive.
tell you what, I seen some pictures of her. She's looking good.
Yeah, she's healthy. And she's got a little bit of Alzheimer's, but God bless her. She's healthy and happy, and that's all we care about, you know.
Exactly.
100.
So congratulations to your family.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So but on that note too, it's also Michael Jordan's birthday too.
58 years old.
58 years old.
And I talked to Seth earlier today, and I thought he was my age. He's a youngster.
You know, I heard a story that Michael. They went to Michael and they were asking Michael how the Bulls would do if they played the Lakers in a game. He said, "We'd probably win 3 out of 5." And they said, 3 out of 5. That's pretty good. He says, "How do you get there?" He says, "Well, you got to remember we're all 60 now."
That's like the old saying. I heard a story about Bob Fellers. Somebody asked him. He says, "How many? You averaged 9 strikeouts per game during your career, and do you think you could do that now if you was pitching against these hitters today?" He says, "No, I might get 6 or 7. I'm 80 years old."
You gotta love the legends there.
Bob Feller signed more autographs than any 12 people. He was an autograph machine. He said that you go to every spring training when it was in Florida, and then moved to Goodyear. He was always at every game. Always you could access to the fans.
Right. He never refused an autograph to anybody. I mean, anybody walk up to him, he'll sign. And he signed a heck of a lot of them, and probably the greatest right-handed pitcher that ever played the game, man.
The only problem is it diminishes the value of his autograph because there's 8 million of them out there.
Well, I hate to say this, I had one. I looked up. I got an autographed picture of him. He signed a picture for me, and I think it was worth $8. So, but it's in a frame, sitting at home. So,
I have a postcard. He autographed. I forget where I got it. Was my grandma got it from her. She there was a family connection with the Cleveland Indians way back in that day. In the 20s, my great grandma used to make their uniforms. We're talking way back, and so she was going through some family photos, and that showed up. She goes, "Seth, I need to show you this." And I looked, and it was a postcard with a picture of Bob Feller and it's signed autograph there. She goes, "I want you to have this." So I have it somewhere. I forget where. But I think I put it with the other cards, but in a safe place where it couldn't get ruined. But that was nice there.
Didn't he pitch a no-hitter the first game of the season?
First game of the season.
And no one will ever beat that record. They can match it, but they can never beat it.
Yeah, and the only pitcher to ever do a season opener.
Season opener, no-hitter.
No-hitter.
So he went into it with a perfect ERA. He came out of it with a perfect ERA.
Well, here's a question for you guys since we brought that up. Obviously, we know whether we agree with it or not, the Cleveland Indians are going to change their name in a year. The Fellers and the Dobies is on the table, apparently. Do they think they should pull the trigger on that?
My opinion. I want the Rockers.
I like the Rockers,
too. Cleveland being a
but I
Rock
just
and Roll Hall of
thought
Fame.
specifically because of these two players here. And they both have statues. They both engraved their name in baseball history. Should we name the...
Sadly, it's the only franchise that has a Native American emblem that actually is in honor of a Native American.
Right.
And the other ones, the Redskins, the Chiefs, they're not honoring anybody. The Indians actually did it in honor of a Native American.
Louis Sasquatch or something like that.
Close. I'm not going to try it.
I'm not going to try. I mean, that's the best I can do with it.
Yeah.
And they've brought him up too as the name of for the Sox, just to take it part of that name there.
Yeah.
But with the White Sox and the Red Sox already in the league, that's kind of just.
I kind of think the Spiders are going to get it. I think it seems like
I hate to say that. I think so too.
it just seems like that's the way it's going.
I don't like that name, but I think you're not wrong either.
As long as it ain't the Cleveland baseball team. You know,
right. They said that's not going to happen.
The Washington Redskins did, you know. Washington, you know. They did, you know, to me.
Well, and that's messy because you.
But it's always going to be the Indians to me. I don't care
Right.
what they change it to. It's always. I grew up an Indian fan. They're the Indians. And I went out and bought 5 Indian hats.
Right.
So I have them. But when I go to the game, I will wear them.
Right, right. And he's going to go vintage, so all the stores are going to still carry him, whatnot, even the big ones. I had a representative of, I'm going to leave the company name out of it, but there's a famous sports hat company I buy a lot of my hats from. And they said years ago, before it was official, they were going to remove Chief Wahoo. They said there's already a plan to name him Vintage, and they're going to keep reusing and selling because it's going to sell.
Supposedly, you can still be able to buy the Indian logo and stuff like the team shop and stuff like that. And it'll probably be a vintage. They'll probably call it a vintage.
Yeah.
You know, but they're always going to be the tribe to me, the Indians to me.
Well, you watch. This will be, you know, in 20 years, the Chiefs will be gone. The Braves will be gone. Just the way that the political correctness has run amok. It's just not going to ever stop.
You know, the Braves, I can't see because you know, Indians, they're the Braves. I mean, they were brave people.
Yeah, but you can't do that tomahawk chop thing. That's and the Chiefs do the same thing.
Well, and but my concern is after that's done, they're going to move on to that next thing. They're going to say, well, sharks are endangered, so there's the sharks in NHL. I don't follow hockey that well, and they're going to say, you shouldn't name it after them. Or they'll go. They're going to. We still have people names like the Irish. They're going to go after say, okay, now it's time to remove that.
I mean, what about the Chicago Blackhawks? You know, that's an Indian head. You know,
right?
I don't hear nobody.
Which was it?
They were a tribe, I think.
Eastern. Well, we already know Miami changed from the Redskins.
Right.
I think it was. Is it Eastern Michigan? Changed their name to. There's. I know what.
I can't remember.
Affected. There's a couple of the American teams.
I know Miami used to be the Redskins, and then they changed to the Red Hawks.
They changed to the Red Hawks. I know the Indianapolis Indians, the AAA of the Pirates, came out and said they're not changing their name. So you still have teams, you know, and I don't know what Copley High School around here is going to do if they're going to continue.
Well, remember we had the East Orientals; they changed it to the Dragons.
Right.
Right.
You know, we grew up in this area.
Hey, I'm a pirate. I take offense to that.
Oh, you're a pirate.
Patch and
there you go.
Thievery and stuff. You know,
yeah,
that's
right. So anyway, you guys, every Wednesday night, this is the deal.
This is the deal.
Talk about
just sit there
local sports and
talk about the Indians, the Browns, the Cavaliers. We do talk about the Cleveland Crunch. Every once in a while
they're coming back apparently.
Akron University. Every once in a while, we do mention that team east of us, Kent State.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, speaking of the Zips, since we've got the gear on tonight, they're one half a game out first place in the MAC. They split with Toledo, which Toledo's got a half a game lead on them, and they struggle against Northern Illinois. And Northern Illinois is in the bottom of the league. They've only got like three wins.
They're 1-8 in the conference.
And the one win?
One win.
Was against the Zips.
But every in basketball knows in the NBA
they're 1-7.
college level,
1-7, 4-8.
No matter what conference you're in, there's always that one good team that struggles against that one bad team.
Yeah, it's matchup.
It's just that I won't forget. You know, right now the Cavs aren't playing so well. But they were talking about the team that lost 20 in a row after LeBron left. You can remember that year, and that was also the year that the Knicks got Carmelo Anthony. And they thought they had a chance at the finals. They had Amar Stoudemire, Carmelo Anthony, and I was actually there at the game, Anthony's first game in Cleveland as a Knick. All right, Cavs won 3 out of 4 against that team, that Knicks team. I mean, they smashed them. There was one game they beat them pretty bad, and people were like, I don't get it. This team's talking about finals, but they can't beat the Cavaliers. It's just one of those things. There's always that one bad team that gets that one good team's number. In the past with the Indians, we've seen it where in the early 2000s, Tampa Bay Rays were kind of a low team. And then you had Jim Thome, Vizquel, and all these guys on the Indians. They always struggled against the Tampa Bay Rays for some reason. Yeah. So it happens all the way around.
The Cavaliers have lost 10 in a row now.
Right.
They're not playing tonight. They were scheduled to play San Antonio, but San Antonio shut down because of COVID-19.
They had four players, I guess.
And they're setting Drummond until they can move him.
Correct.
He's not going to play. They don't want to make sure he's not going to get injured. And they've decided to go with this Jared Allen, and I guess he and Sexton got into a screaming contest the last game they played against San Francisco. They got in each other's face, and I've got to believe it's probably because of Sexton's defensive lapses. The guy scores, he gets down the court, but the problem with him and Garland is both of them are rather on the small side for guards, right. And they lack the defense capabilities that they don't match up very well against these big guards. And I've got to believe Allen, was like, dude, you got to play defense. There's more to the game. You got to play defense.
They came out and said that the media kind of overreacted. They said we'd go to war with each other. It's just there's frustration. They feel they've lost 20 games in a row. You're saying 10, you're right, but they feel they've lost 20, and they just said there was just frustration and some words were said, but they worked it out in the locker room. It's all good. But
it looked like when the season started, it looks like, hey, this time might be a playoff team.
Right.
But now it's out the window. And they didn't give a whole lot for Drummond. Drummond, it was from Detroit, right. Wanted to get rid of that big salary, and they only gave Detroit a second-round pick. So they don't have to get a lot back for him, but it would be nice to get a good player.
Right.
So, one big, tall guard maybe or somebody to help him out a little bit instead of just giving him away. But chances are they're just going to dump that $30 million.
Exactly. What I think is, like you were mentioning, they were playing so well at first, and all of a sudden now they're not playing well. And I think part of it is because, well, actually, no, I think the reason, this is not part, I think the big reason it is those two trades they did. And they were necessary at the time. Like, they didn't expect, they knew they were in the mix for the James Harden talks, not to get James Harden, but to be the other team. Harden wanted out right there and then, so they came up and said, okay, we have this deal to make it happen, and Cavs can get Jared Allen. So, of course, they're going to take that deal. And then you have the problems with Kevin Porter Jr. and in that trade. And what people may not understand is people may look at, oh, well, this is just another thug player running his mouth. Porter was not like that in the locker room and on the court. He was a team player. The players loved playing with him. Everybody liked him on a personal level, but he had some demons outside the game that affected him in his personal life, that affected the Cavs organization. It affected more the coaching staff and the front office than it did the players. And you have Kevin Love come out saying they thought he was the best player on the team. They thought that highly of him. So when you make a trade that says, okay, we're going to tell you we're not committed to Andre Drummond, your big leader. He's been playing really well. Oh, and we're also going to trade your other piece. That messed with all their heads.
Sure.
It's a chemistry thing went downhill, and you're basically back to the rebuild. You can't talk playoffs.
When they first got Larry Nance Sr., when he came over from Phoenix, now we're going way back before your time.
Yeah.
That team was playing very well at the time,
right.
But they knew they needed another piece to the puzzle. They bought Larry Nance Sr. in, and the team took a tailspin for a while until the chemistry. Right. They got some practices together. It's difficult to practice in the middle of the season.
Right.
You're going all the time, and to be able to get accustomed and find the chemistry and get used to how he plays and how he passes and how he defends. That Cavalier team struggled for a bit. They finally figured it out and became one of the best teams in the NBA. So I agree with you, Seth. Team chemistry.
Right.
Things change. And Allen, he's going to be very young. He's tall. He's 6'11", 250 pounds. He's the right guy. He's young. They can afford him. And Drummond was, I don't think he was going to be a Cavalier long term. I don't think.
Right.
It just didn't work out.
Right. Yeah, I mean Drummond. I think Drummond's gone.
Right.
You know.
Oh, he's gone.
I think-
They said they're not going to play him. He's
Right.
going to set.
I think it was a money thing too. I do believe he has a great relationship with Kobe Altman. I think in the summer they were talking to him, get a feel, say, look, we kind of want this deal, and he said, I want that deal, and it just never picked up after that because there was reports he's in long term, and it sounded all good. He accepted his player option like he said he would, and then when they came to the extension, even before the season was thought of, they were just like, things aren't looking good. It's kind of rocky. And I think Cavs were looking like, look, Sexton's going to need a contract extension. We don't want to pay you X. Now, here's the thing is, Jared Allen's already come out and he told the Nets, before the trade to the Cavaliers, he's a restricted free agent next year. So they got him for 1 more year guaranteed, but if they want to extend him, it's got to be a big contract. He's looking upwards $90 million for like about 5 years or so. So, I mean, so they're already got to pay a good amount. He's 22, though, so he'll be Andre's age when that contract ends, if they give him that contract. So we'll have to see about that. But another thing, we were talking about chemistry and all that, was I think it was 2008 Cavaliers trade. I don't know if you remember this one. LeBron's first term still with the Cavs. They already went to the finals, but with what the Celtics were doing, they needed more. So they trade away half the team for Wally Zerbiak with Delonte West, Ben Wallace, and Josh Smith. And it was... That took a while, because I remember the first game, they only had it, because they had to pass physicals, do all this kind of stuff. They had to wait, and they were playing the Wizards, and the Cavs, again, have Wizards number. We're talking about teams that have other teams' number. The Cavs won with 8 players. They signed 3 off the D-League at the time. It's now the G-League, and pulled out the win. And then when the other players came in, they kind of looked a little sloppy there for a bit until it molded and came through. But I remember when that people thought they're going to win off the... Well, they didn't, because again, you trade away I think 7 players for 4 players, so they had to make these big adjustments. Sure. You know what I mean?
That's basketball.
So, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now I will give basketball credit, and at least they've got a handle on the payroll. They've got a way to keep the players happy, to make the pay fair throughout the league, that all teams can compete. Some teams now again they load up because they allow this good old boy network to load up 3 superstars. But I'm segueing into baseball. I'm going from football. Football's got it handled.
That's what we do here.
Football's got it handled and under control. Basketball seems to have where everyone can compete. Then we have the $200 million Dodgers,
Right.
the $200 million Yankees, and the $30 million Indians. It says that something needs to change, ought to change.
It's got to change.
But the problem is I don't see that there's anything on the horizon that's going to allow that to happen, because it seems like the hierarchy of major leagues and the big time owners don't want to do anything about it.
Not in baseball.
No, and I think that's partially why Rob Manfred was, my opinion, picked as the executive, because he's not a baseball guy, he's a business guy, he's an owner's friend, not a player's friend. And where C-League was kind of a mix, like he knew the business side, but he looked out for the pastime of the game, he looked out for the players' needs too, where Manfred is, okay, how do we make your money? How do we make, and he doesn't... I don't think he cares enough with the small market teams and everything. I mean, you saw, and I do believe personally, the Indians had the All-Star game a couple years ago in a trade to get rid of Chief Wahoo. I believe that was on the table, because it did when Manfred was faced with that question a couple of times, he kind of avoided. He went around, did the politician thing, But when it came to the name, he said, "Oh, they can keep that. That's fine." So you see this guy, he just the way he works and everything. He's just like those big-time owners, All of them are big-time in a way. They're all billionaires. They're all really rich. But like you said with the salary cap, I mean, you look at the Dodgers, who just got the great deal for Trevor Bauer. He gets to their $40 million a year. Then they extend Justin Turner for $31 million or something like that. And he's going to work I don't know. Is he the regular starter? I thought they had somebody else there
No,
too.
I don't think he's a regular starter.
Yeah, so he's off the bench making $31 million or moving around because he can play more than he can play first too. And it's like, yeah, when can we catch a break here?
My opinion is that a cap, like a $120 million cap, and then every dollar you go over the cap, 50 cents of that goes into a pot for the rest of the teams allow them
Well,
to.
they tried that once with the luxury tax, but these owners just kept going above it, and above it, and above it, and above it.
Yeah.
And the small market teams don't have a chance. I mean, there's only 4 teams last year in all baseball. The 30 major league teams, only 4 made money because everybody else lost money, and that's why you're seeing a lot more of this 1-year deals. They keep giving, it used to be 2, 3, 4-year deals. This year, most of free agent stuff was a 1-year deal because the teams don't have the money. They don't have the money.
The small market teams.
Small market teams
don't have the money.
unless you're
Yeah.
the Los Angeles, the Chicago's, the New York.
But you know what? Every once in a while, Tampa Bay comes along, like last year. Every once in a while, that in the A's with Moneyball, they figured out how to win in spite of the.
I mean, if you look at especially the Indians, their minor league system's one of the best in all of baseball. Of course, their prospects are rated 9th of the 30 teams. Pitching, they're rated 1, number 1 of all the 30 teams. So I mean, they're one of the highest ranked of all the 30 teams. I mean, so we got a lot of talent down there. Do we want to go out and spend millions of dollars on a veteran? And we got some kids down in the farms that we know is going to come up.
But you've got to score more than 2 or 3 runs a game.
Yeah, right.
That's where they're because the pitching, their pitching's the best in baseball.
Right. They were talking about, you were bringing that up, I forget where, I was reading something, because, baseball's coming up and whatnot, and they're talking about pitchers that had good years but could have been, better. And one that came to mind when you were bringing that up was in 2005 with Kevin Millwood. He should have been the Cy Young winner. But he only went 8-5 with a 2.30-some ERA because they hit the ball for the rest of the pitchers, but they never hit for him.
We had a couple Indians pitchers that happened to them. And Nagy was one of them. Charles Nagy was one of them. I mean, yeah, Charlie's had a good season, but most of his losses were 1 run where the Indians couldn't score for him.
Right.
Yeah, I think that when Bieber went into the playoffs and fell apart, it gets to you when you think you have to be letter perfect. Every pitch has to be perfect because I've got to make sure 1 or 2 runs wins the game. Then you try to hone in and be perfect, and that goes against you.
Right.
You got to be loosey goosey, and there's gonna be some games you're gonna give up 3 or 4 runs.
Right.
But with the Indians, you give up 3 or 4 games, you lose.
At least last year's, hopefully this year. So I know without Francisco Lindor in the lineup, there people are like, but you got to remember again, he didn't have a great year last year either.
No, he didn't.
Now you have Eddie Rosario coming in, and that's a great back there. Cesar Hernandez was one of the most consistent bats in the league.
I mean, led the
He's
league in
back.
doubles.
Yeah, he had a couple game winners there too. I think he had 2 walk-offs.
Santana was down.
Yep,
Last year. Okay, he did. I mean, as good as he was in 19, that's how bad he was in 20.
Right.
Santana.
Right. Exactly.
So, and you know what? And they've got some minor leaguers that have proven themselves in the minor leagues.
Right.
Um,
Daniel Johnson.
Bradley, Johnson, have done a very, very remarkable job in the minors if they can carry through and be patient enough to see that to fruition. Because Daniel Johnson's a perfect example.
Right.
The guy's a 300 hitter in the minors, but got power. He's got all the tools, but it just hasn't related to the major league pitching yet.
Right. And that's the other thing, too. As much as we like Tito Francona here, he's completely changed the environment. So I will say what people overlook his era, because it's very similar to those 90s teams. It really is. It's like the 90s all over again, except one less World Series visit. But hopefully we'll see a win there sometime. If not this year, who knows. But I bring it up because he has that reputation of not being patient. He will sign that utility guy, that Ryan Rayburn, that Mike Freeman, that There's a couple other examples, and he'll play them instead of the younger guys. And the rumor on the street has it, front office has confronted him about it, said, look, we need these younger guys to at least play. I know they're not going to be perfect, but how can they grow if they're on the bench? And he just looks for the best way to, because he's a winner. Francona's
Right.
a winner, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's better to put that younger guy out there because you look at, Ryan Rayburn was great against left-handed hitters. That's about it. Mike Freeman's inconsistent bat. Good, not bad at the field, but, but he's kind of clutch at the same time.
He can be clutch.
Yeah, but if you put that younger guy in, maybe you get a 2 home run game out of him. Maybe you just get better production overall. And Francona, I'm not going to say Francona doesn't know ways to because he knows better than I do. But that's just something that he's going to make a personal adjustment to go into this year. Because, again, we're looking at these battles. Me and Bob have been talking about for the past couple week. You got first base up for grabs. You got right and center field up for grabs. And 5th starting pitcher spot up for grabs. That's a lot, actually, to go into the season. You know what I mean? And so there's going to be a couple younger names we can list, in right field. You got Nolan Jones, who's also up for first base too. Daniel Johnson.
There's another guy that's done it in the minors, Nolan Jones. He's young.
Yeah.
He's got all the tools. But then again, it will relate in the major leagues. He can't play third base.
Right,
First off, we've got a third baseman.
Right.
We don't have to.
We
get
have
in
the
there.
best third baseman in the league.
Yeah, we don't have to put him at third base. Thank
Right.
goodness. At least yet. Now, here's another thing. He's going to be approaching a large contract soon.
What are you talking
by-
about? You're talking
Jose.
about
Jose.
2023.
So, if we don't see something happening with him, do you think that he's going to be trade bait by the end of 2021? Going into 2022?
I think it's too early. I think they're pretty much committed him for the next couple of years. Because you notice they waited last second for Lindor. They waited last second for Sabathia, Cliff Lee. You know what I mean? They kind of held off. I think they're going to hold off with it because they need something to get these bats right. And that's an automatic great bat right there in the lap. You got a 3-time top 3 MVP candidate.
If you can protect him.
Right.
Yeah,
If you can protect him.
Right.
And if Reyes can continue to hit,
Right.
they
That's
don't
him too.
and bat him behind Jose, then you can kind of protect him a little bit. Yeah. One of the Rosario in the lineup will protect him somewhat as well. So that will help some.
Right.
Now, my question to both of you guys and you folks out there, and that is who's going to be the shortstop? Jimenez or Ahmad Rosario? Who's going to be the shortstop?
It's going to be Jimenez, I think.
I think it's going to be what pitcher's pitching that day, right or left-handed.
Really?
Yeah.
The reason I'm going with Jimenez here is because last year with the Mets, Rosario's production went down. Because I think the Mets I think when he got traded to the Indians, my personal opinion, was Indians needed a backup plan in case Cesar didn't resign. Thankfully, he did. And if Cesar did it, then I think Rosario was going to be for second base. Because Jimenez has a great glove at short. They're saying he's gold glove material. He might be actually better than Lindor defensively. Not offensively, because he's got a decent contact, but some have even compared him to Vizquel, which that's a big compliment, So if you put him at short, then you've got short locked up defensively. Rosario has been in a lot of trade talk too. I think they're going to go into spring, see if he fits the mold for opening day, because I think his status is just so up in the air, because you got Yu Chang for backup too, if need be. Jimenez is a little younger. He's got a little bit of a better bat too, so he's all around a better player right now. Where Rosario, even the Reds have, I guess, called them about his availability and everything. I think
he's kind of not the best shortstop, though, from what I understand.
Jimenez?
He booted Rosario.
Rosario, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't do real well.
So right now the Reds are
defensively.
hurting this short. They need a shortstop bat.
And that's where the other debate comes into, because me personally, I think Jimenez has it locked up before camp starts. That's just my brutally honest prediction right there. The other thing, too, is Jimenez is young, and Reyes, the guy they got out of the Padres trade with Clevenger, that's the guy they really want to be the heir to Lindor, and he might even be much better overall. And if that's true, we might see him as early as more next year. I'm not going to say this year. Unless anybody gets hurt, that's going to be the difference maker there. I think Jimenez has it locked up. Again, a great glove at shortstop, made some great plays.
See, they got Jimenez projected as going against right-handed pitchers, and Rosario is going against left-handed pitchers.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. If he boots a few balls, we may not see a lot of Rosario.
Right.
Another thought that I had,
I mean, that's
and
just
that
projection.
is even though Rosario hasn't played outfield, I feel like a shortstop making the move to left field, you being a baseball coach, you would know that how many balls does that shortstop catch that are short left field, going back over his head, and the ball comes off the bat the same way whether you're in shortstop or left field.
Right.
How much of a tough transition would it make for him to play some left field, Rosario? The Mets will Rosario.
I think it'd be a hard transition. So
You think?
Yeah.
I think it's easier for an infielder to transition to the outfield. An outfielder to the infield, no.
No.
That takes a while. If you remember Jason Kempnis, who just signed with the Braves, I was actually hoping for a reunion, but he was drafted center field, and they moved him to second. But you're bringing up Rosario switching. So does, I mean not Rosario, but
Ahmed Rosario switching to left field.
Switching to left field.
So we have two Rosarios. That's what's throwing me off. But so does Eddie Rosario move in that case to center or right field then?
Right field.
Okay. So you have him at right. I mean, it's an idea. They might play, but I'm not sure. Play with the idea. I'm not sure how. I don't know. Francona gets creative at times. I know right now. I will say in the past, Jose Ramirez has played left. He's kind of a little bit bigger now than he was, and so because if you remember when Jose first came in the league, he was kind of like a stick. So he kind of fit, like he had a little more speed. And not that he's not fast, because he is fast for his size. But I wouldn't move Jose to left field necessarily. But I'm just bringing that up as it's happened before. He came in as a shortstop. He played a lot of second base. He played a lot of left field. And in 2016, they moved him to third. And I remember me even saying, I think he fits there. I think they should keep him there. And if you remember that year, Jensen Lewis is still talking about it all week about like how can we see 2016 again. I don't know if he's exactly said that, but he's kept talking about it. Cody Allen retired today, so that was brought up again, and just how magical that year was. But it's like you have a point, is what I'm trying to say. I just don't know if they're going to go through with it because you got. Again,
my thoughts are it's easy. It would be an easier transition to left field.
Right.
For him.
Yeah.
Being a coach, I think an infielder can play outfield.
I mean, anybody can play anywhere, really. I mean, talent-wise, except for a catcher. I don't think a catcher can do it. But
yeah, maybe not.
Well, you were bringing up Goose earlier today, who was an outfielder for the Detroit Tigers. He's now a lefty pitcher for the Indians, bullpen guy, and I guess he's up for a spot. So you look at those switches. I mean,
if he could throw strikes and throw 100 mile an hour, I think he's got a spot.
Oh yeah, I mean you look at what was his name, soon to be Hall of Famer for the Twins, closer Nathan. Just recently.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
2000s, he dominated. He was a shortstop though, moved to pitcher. Well, here's the thing: is he was with the Giants organization. He technically retired. Said, "I'm just not going to make it as an infielder in this league." And the Giants called him at his grocery store job and said,
"Well, I see a lot of the infielders making his pitchers."
Right,
but if you ever
shortstops,
you ever notice when they bring in a position player to pitch, it's always from the infield.
Yeah.
Because they're arms.
They're arms. They got cannons. If you're playing shortstop in the majors, you got a cannon.
So I can see that happening. You never say the outfield. Come here, outfield. You're pitching unless you're little leaguers, but.
Right. But anyway, another signee that they just got is that Gamble. He's invited, an outfielder.
Outfielder, yeah.
He had 2017. He had a big year. Hit like 270. Not a lot of pop. But
right. He drove in some runs.
And another possibility. Maybe that works against, as you mentioned, Tito might want to play someone like him rather than Johnson.
Well, and another guy we forgot to bring him up is Billy Hamilton, the former Reds guy. He's now in the mix for center fielder.
I mean, not much of a bat, but man, he's got some speed.
He can speed it. He gets to the ball.
He covers a lot of ground in that outfield.
Look back into last season, especially the Yankees playoff game, having great defense at center field made the big difference, and what I mean by that is we didn't have it. So
Well,
having it makes a bit, makes.
He hit better than Allen, maybe. Allen just never made it. It was great great speed, good outfielder, but never.
Of course, last season Mikado really didn't have a great year at the bat.
Right.
The year before he did.
Yeah.
But
So Hamilton, with the new rules that extra innings, put a runner at second base. You got the perfect guy for that.
Right.
Secondly, if you're playing little ball and you're generating runs, which the Indians are likely to be doing this year, you get somebody on late in the game, 7th, 8th inning. There's your guy that's going to go in and run for you, steal a base, get a hit. You got to run. So I think it's a good addition, even if he doesn't play all the time.
Well,
it's
if he makes the roster, he's guaranteed $1 million. He does got an opt out that if they ask him to go to AAA, that he can refuse.
Go somewhere else.
He can refuse. So I did see that come across the Reds lineup, the Reds transactions the other day. So
Now starters, obviously, Bieber, your man, your ace. Cavelli looks like he'll be one of the starters. Who else?
Quintuelo.
He's up for the extra spot. He's not locked yet. You got Zach Plesac and Tristan McKenzie. I think are pretty much locks. And then of course, who replaces Cookie Carrasco? Quintrell's favored. I thought he did really well with the Indians last year. And man, again, doesn't that Clevenger trade look even better now that Clevenger is not? I wish him well, but he's not going to be playing at all this year.
Right.
But Quantrill, again, like everybody in the league, compare him to Zach Plesac, and look how good Zach was last year. Even look just how Quantrill was.
I think he'll be your 5th starter.
I think so too. But I think Bob were talking about this last week. Scott Moss is going to be an option lefty. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but he knows how to get outs.
McKenzie looks too fragile.
He does, but he played so well.
6'5", 160 pounds.
He does.
My leg was
he
under.
throws the ball high 90s.
Right.
But can he Can he go the whole season?
That's the question. When I worked for the AA team, the Rubber Ducks, and he was down there, that was his first year there. You kind of went around him. Good guy, good hyper kid. He had a couple games. It was more inconsistent. Again, he was getting back to the ropes. I think he was already coming off injury then. And a couple games he was not great. And there was 2 home games he didn't give up a hit till the 7th inning. And he had about 9 strikeouts at least. So and you look at what he did last year. I think you play him because you have him. That's kind of the attitude there. Yes, he look fragile, but it's look, while he's playing good, you take what you can get.
Hey, and you know what? He's only going to get bigger and stronger.
Right. And he may have over the offseason. We don't know.
Right.
He may the trainer told Bush and said, "Hey, look, here's a thing of protein. Have a lot of it," or something like that. You know what I mean?
The Indians did sign another kid in that Blake Parker.
Yes, that's for relief.
For relief pitching, yeah.
And a lot of people predict he's going to make the lineup opening day.
He was 3-0 last year with Philadelphia with a 2.81 earned run average as a reliever coming out of the pen.
So it sounds as if we don't know for sure who the closer is going to be, whether it's going to be
Karsak,
Karachek,
Clacy. I never can pronounce his name.
Yeah, we don't know. They're both. I think we're in pretty good shape. One of them set up, one closer. I don't think we're going to blow up in that regard. If one stumbles a little bit, we've got Plan A and Plan B, or 1A and 1B. It looks like we've got our starters pretty set, and they've made some pretty good signs for the middle relief. I don't know if they've got a long guy. I don't think it'll be Shaw.
Well, you got
Brian Shaw. He's an inning eater.
You got Logan Allen, the lefty, who actually was solid last year. They got out of the Bauer trade from San Diego. He can eat up at least 5 innings if you want, because he's part starter, part. I think he's up for the extra spot too, but they really like him long, especially if they have a double header. It'd be hey, look, you're healthy, you're not worn down. You go out there and you start game 2, and he did well in a couple of those games. There's a couple games he gave him a couple runs, But overall, I mean, it's a lefty in the league that can last long in the game.
I see a fad that's happened over the last couple years, and that is these reliever games where the relievers pitch each one gets an inning or two.
Right.
And it seemed to be a trend that's happening more.
It seems like it's happening more and more and more.
And I don't know whether that's not bringing a guy up from AAA to pitch a game and send him back down, is just let your relievers get some work, or if that's a trend that we'll see more and more, and we'll see Tito doing that often. Who knows?
The Twins did it against them last year. Who was I going to bring up?
Well, I know they got now. The rule is you got to pitch 3 batters.
Now, I thought, weren't they trying to change that? That's what I was going to bring up, by the way.
They're keeping it for this year.
They are keeping it for this year. I don't like that rule either.
They're going to have to pitch the 3. You bring somebody in, unless it's the last out of the inning. Then you can bring another guy in to start the next inning.
Yeah, I don't like that idea either. It's it takes away from the managing the team.
I know.
Well, you know. It's it's
Well,
matching up.
I'm against it too.
And
against it too.
Hey, and
And that's why last year you see a lot of 2 outs. They'll bring a pitcher in because he don't have to come back in the beginning of the next inning.
right.
As long as there's 2 outs, and you see that a lot. I mean, it does take away from the game. That's the same with the DH. I would love to see the DH either in both leagues or neither league. Because it does take away from the managing part of it. Should I pull my pitcher now?
Makes it easy.
I got the bases loaded.
Makes it
with
easier
2
for
outs.
the American League.
I got the pitcher up the bat.
And if we don't get out of it, I'd like that pitcher to be back in the next inning.
Yeah,
I think it's a big advantage for the National League when they play against American League teams at home.
Right.
It's a big advantage because those pitchers never see live hitting or live pitching. I mean,
hardly ever.
Yeah,
A lot of these younger kids have never seen it. Never
Right.
seen live pitching in a game. I mean, some bullpen, some tosses to them so they can get a swing of the bat, but they never seen a 90-mile-an-hour fastball coming down the middle.
Right. They throw it.
They'll throw it, but they never try to hit it.
I'm kind of more leaning towards, because you know how the game has changed. So, there's always this debate in basketball these days. You bring up Michael Jordan, how he would do against this team, and there's some people that are trying to make the argument that the college players today are better than a lot of the pro players back in this day. And along with that argument, not that I agree with it necessarily, but that's been debating in the basketball world within this past year, is the pitchers are throwing harder now. They're a little more, you used the word fragile to describe one of the Indian players. Part of me, and I know, I'm still I'm part of an old school pastime person, but at the same time, I kind of want to see the National League switch to DHs because it's you're putting your pitcher at risk now. A lot of them just do not hit. And it's and I know it takes away from the managing part of it too, and I kind of don't want to see that go. So I have mixed feelings, but with the designated hitter, then if you're a National League team and you got a great hitting prospect, you could work better on his fielding, but he's out of options, he's on your bench. Why not have him in the designated hitter spot each game? And I got mixed feelings because part of me wants to keep the tradition, but part of me is looking out.
Then again, both leagues should have it.
Right. How would you feel if you're this team that might make the World Series, you clinched your playoff spot, one of your last games of the season, your pitcher is out for the playoffs because he tripped running to first base.
Or he gets beamed.
Yeah.
Somebody throws at him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
And it happens.
It does. It does. That's why I'm so maybe...
I want to protect my pitcher. I don't want him up there
DH,
where he can get thrown at.
Well,
And guess what? If that pitcher threw at somebody 3 games ago, guess what?
Somebody's getting it. He's getting it back.
He's coming up. So that's baseball, and that's part of the mantra of baseball is, hey, you know what? Your pitcher is going to come to bat. You might think about it.
That's what I love about baseball. They defend their players. Hey, real quick, we got to take our first break. So when we come back, we're going to talk a lot about the Cavs, the latest rumors on the Browns, and all kinds of fun stuff. And we're going to keep our friend Handy Randy with us. We're having a good time here at 10-6.
Hey, we might talk about cars when we come back.
Oh, yeah, cars. He's going to talk cars,
yeah.
yeah. So something a little new and a little twist we don't want to do. So we'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. Thank you so much.
all these blues. This morning the blues walked in like a man. All these blues. The blues walked in like a man. Worried blues. Give me your right hand. All the blues is a low down and a shaking chill. Yeah, it's preaching now. If you ain't never had 'em, I hope you never will. When I preach these blues, you come on in, take your seat and sit on down. When I preach these blues, you come on in, take your seat and sit on down. And if the spirit moves you, if the spirit moves you, and if the spirit moves you, Lord, if the spirit moves you, jump straight up and down. Ah, let these blues is a low down and an aching heart disease. Yeah, these blues is a low down and an aching old heart disease. Like consumption, killing me 5 degrees. I can study the rain, oh, I drive my blues away. I've been studying the rain, I'm gonna drive my blues away. Going out to the distillery, gonna stay out there all day. Up jumped the devil.
All right, we're back at 10 Cent Beer Night tonight here at PolymerCityRecords.com in Akron, Ohio. I'm Seth.
I'm Bob.
Randy.
And it's Randy. It's Handy Randy sitting here. Before we let Handy Randy take away, start talking about cars and all kinds of stuff we usually don't talk about here that we need to, let's address some other things. We talked some Indians. We've talked some Cavs. Consider the rumors of Audrey Drummond. Sounds like a lot of teams interested. Celtics, Raptors, Heat are now in the discussion, but only one team can get him, so we'll see what we get for that. There's also been football off season's technically underway. In a couple weeks, free agency will kick off for sure. And literally in a couple weeks, we're second last week of February now, and it's like the first week of March. It all starts. But there's one free agent out there that got cut recently by his team, so he's up for grabs before free agency period starts. That's J.J. Watt. And it's looking like, from the rumors and the reports, it's coming down to Green Bay and Cleveland.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah,
I'll take a worn out J.J. Watts any time.
The opposite side of Myles Garrett.
Oh, man.
Well, and it gets more interesting, gentlemen, because an hour before we started the show today, reports coming out the Denver Broncos are talking about declining Von Miller's option, and he's thinking, if he gets declined, about joining J.J. Watt.
Shoot.
Now, so could the Browns, they need another D-end, and they need another linebacker, just fill that in this offseason with two Hall of Famers.
Well, the Browns got $29 million to work with.
Right.
Yeah, they're like 10th. They're in good shape. There's a lot of teams. The Steelers are in big trouble.
Right.
They've got a whole bunch of free agents. They're way over cap. There's issues with Big Ben. Whether he has got to renegotiate. He has got to do something on that cap to help the team out. I think he will, because I don't think the money can be that big of an issue anymore for him. But even if they do renegotiate his contract and bring it down, they still have a boatload of free agents. They can't sign them all.
Right, Joe Hayden being one of them. There's been rumors, fans trying to get him back in Cleveland and
Dupree
whatnot.
will be gone.
Yeah, he's going to find a nice contract somewhere.
Yeah.
It may even be Tampa Bay.
Unless they put the franchise tag on him, which they may.
They may have to.
But then, for sure, Juju's out. He's gone. So they're in trouble.
Yeah.
They've got some issues that they just don't have the money. They don't have the capital to keep everybody.
Right.
And as we could see at the end of the season, they were in trouble even with the team that they have.
Exactly. Well, you brought up Bud Dupree. It tickled me over this week. People that watch this regularly, our good friend Chris, his son-in-law, stands there, talks football. For Valentine's Day, he's a Steelers fan, a Bud Dupree autographed football. I'm thinking, that may have just jinxed everything, but okay. There you go, enjoy that.
I know Chris is watching.
Okay. Imagine if he goes to Baltimore or somewhere. It's like, you got a Baltimore to autograph football, but it's all fun, We'll see what happens. Bud Dupree's going to be very interesting to see where he goes. As far as maybe people are wondering, this whole J.J. Watt thing pans out. People have made reference to, there was a show called New Girl. I think it's off now. It was on Fox. J.J. Watt was a special guest on an episode, and I never watched New Girl, but he's reaching down for something in the episode, and it's actually, there was a box full of football stuff, and it's a Browns helmet on the top. He's reaching for this. It's always been the destiny of J.J. Watt somewhere. And I'm sure Joe Thomas secretly is talking to him, a kid from Wisconsin, And if anybody, Browns fans out there, are worried about, well, he is from Green Bay. Green Bay's a good team. Green Bay's cap's worse than Pittsburgh's. It's theirs is a mess right now. So, and if they want to keep Aaron Rodgers, and they need more weapons for Rodgers, they want to keep it. Now they do need defense too. Don't get me wrong. They have picks though. This is a great defensive draft. Browns might edge them out in this, and I know Andrew Berry jumped right on him, and they were one of the first teams to talk to him. I know Titans have been talked, but Titans again, cap's kind of iffy, and they already made a large commitment to Clowney, who the Browns almost got last year, but the Browns, when it came out, they were going to sign and trade him to New Orleans for a second-round pick, so he wasn't going to stay anyway. But if Watt signs here, they're not trading him. I'm pretty sure about that. That's
and if
how
they could get, if they could get a year or two out of him, God bless him.
Right.
It'll be great.
And that's what I think. If him and let's just say the dream scenario, if Von Miller shows up too, we're talking 2 years. I think tops, maybe 3, maybe 3. But they need,
both of them are getting near the end of their careers.
Right.
Both of them.
But
JJ has been injured. You have to face it. He hasn't been healthy. But I will still take a banged up JJ Watt.
I would.
Over about anybody else out there.
you gotta remember too, you have Miles on the other side. That takes pressure off of JJ. One of them's gonna get less pressure because you can't guard both of them perfectly unless you got. Well, the Browns' offensive line. I'm just being honest with you. Think about it. If you have Conklin and then you have I'm always forgetting his name. The rookie left tackle we got this past year.
Willis.
Willis. Thank you. I don't know why I forget his name. Jedrick Willis. They were the only ones that could stop guys. Actually, the story was against Houston. You know, the Browns played Houston this year. They won. J.J. Watt went up against Willis first because he thought, rookie, I can take him on. He switched a couple plays later after because he's like, I can't get around this guy. So that says something right there. Now he doesn't have to go up against him. Yeah. But it's
our line is
right.
very solid,
right?
And I don't see that it's going to change anything other than getting better next year and adding depth to that offensive line that we have. And there's some key pieces. We got to get a couple kids healthy. We got to get Greedy Williams healthy. We've got to get Del Pitt the safety.
Yes.
Get him healthy. Get Ward where he can play a whole season. All of a sudden, those 3 key players and a linebacker.
Oh, yes, still feel linebacker.
You need to sign, Phillips? You need to re-sign. Taki ended up playing more than Wilson.
Right.
Wilson ended up being
those guys are under contract. They're still under the rookie contract.
But my point is another good linebacker. Get those 2 kids healthy. Miller and Watt. Defense is very solid.
It's almost set. Like you gotta get a couple D tackles too.
Yeah,
but you got draft picks. You got
draft picks.
9 draft
picks.
Get some depth. And
you
got 4 in the top 70 or something like that. Or I forget. I have to look it back up. Yes.
I don't know that they're going to sign Higgins.
That one's up for. I mean, because there's been rumors they'll upgrade for it. Like they're waiting. They could sign 3 big free agents going into this and for short-term deals. Because you think about it, like you look at their contract situation. They're like, should the Browns be blowing the money right now? Yes. With what you have, add to it. And right now, if you accept Baker and Ward's 5th-year options, you don't have to sign another long-term extension for a couple years.
Right.
So you take those couple years to guarantee contracts with guys that are going to show up, proven they've shown up, and make this team even better. Go better than what you did last year.
Keeping Baker and letting him develop. He's still going to be reasonably cheap for a couple more years.
Right.
That affords the team to keep money, not being in the Pittsburgh situation.
Right.
It affords the team not to be that situation for another 2 or 3 years. So I like the situation of where we're sitting right now, and I like the future. We had a very favorable schedule this year, as did everybody in our division. It was a pretty soft schedule. It's going to be tougher next year.
We won. We usually
won.
don't win those games. We don't.
Right.
So, but that's the thing.
Everybody in the division had that softer schedule, and basically Baltimore, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh took advantage of that softer schedule. It'll be tougher. I believe Pittsburgh going to struggle next year. I honestly believe that they're going to struggle. It's going to be tough for them next year. They can't sign everybody. It's a good organization. The system works. We know that. It's worked for 30 years. I don't see that the system's going to change and fall apart. However, it just looks like they're going to, by what happened at the end of the season and with the free agents and the money situation, it's going to be tough for them to compete. It really is. And the Bengals are only going to get better.
Right, they are.
They did pretty good. Considering Burrows went down, halfway through the season.
Baltimore's going to be Baltimore.
Baltimore's going to be Baltimore.
Yeah, exactly. But Baltimore's been walking away with some great drafts. Pittsburgh's been walking away with some iffy drafts.
Baltimore's possibly losing Willie Snead.
Well,
wide receiver.
You know who I think
he's a free agent. I mean,
you know who I think they're getting though? Juju Smith-Schuster. Watch it happen. That's
Yeah.
my early prediction. As
The
far
one
as
thing about the
Juju's
Ratbirds,
going to
though,
Baltimore.
One thing about the Ratbirds, though, is their quarterback is one scramble away from their season is over.
Right.
Because their offense
I
is
thought it was-
so one-dimensional.
I thought I thought it was over in Cleveland on Monday night when he went out. I went, they got him. I said, now we got to win. And then they didn't pull it off, and then he came back and beat us.
Yeah.
But no, Lamar.
I mean, he's one scramble away from that whole team going to pot, because that's it. He goes, that team goes.
It is that they're relying a lot on him. Their receivers didn't develop as much because unfortunately he didn't pass as well as they thought he would this year. I do like J.K. Dobbins there. Once they picked him, I knew he was going to fit. And then now their right tackle wants to leave for a left tackle and more money. So now they're going to look to trade him. That's a big loss. I mean, he's very good.
Yeah.
He's one of the best in the league. And you're looking at Baltimore's going to have to work out some kinks. Now, unfortunately for people like us that don't like them, they are very good at drafting. That's why they're still in the mix. Defensively, they draft well. Where I would say, like Browns, they've been hitting on some playmakers, but not every pick's been a hit, and they need to change that.
Now, does Ozzie Newsome still have anything to
No,
do with that?
he retired.
Did he retire?
Who?
Ozzie Newsome. He was their general manager for
Right.
for a long time.
He was magic, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was very good. He retired there, but that's when you look at the past Pittsburgh drafts, the first, second round pick they might hit, and they used to hit underneath that, and they haven't been, and that's what's been costing them now. Where we're used to seeing them pick an Antonio Brown or somebody there at those late rounds, they're not hitting those picks, and now they're just releasing those players, and now you don't have a future plan in those positions. Now you get what they have there. The Bengals, great offense. I think the run game needs to a little bit changed up a bit more. Get more O-line protector correct, but they need an overload on defense. Like we're talking about, at least we have Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, a couple of those names there. They really don't have. I mean, they have one cornerback who's really good in this league. Other than that, Dunlap's going to leave.
Let's see, Pac-Man got in trouble again.
Oh yeah,
He was in another bar fight. He can't stay out of trouble.
Right. Some things don't change. He was good for a while.
Pac-Man Jones.
But the Bengals, they need some more work, but they're coming. Burrow was a heck of a pick, and I will say, I don't know what the Steelers will do as far as the future of their quarterback position. I mean, long term, I'm not just on next year, but 3 of the top 10 star quarterbacks in the next 7-10 years are in AFC North right now.
A lot of changes in quarterback next year. You'll see.
Yeah.
We went down the list of quarterbacks in the NFL and teams in the NFL, and as many as 16 changes at quarterback for the next coming year. If you go down the list and look at teams, some of them are solid, obviously. You look at the Baltimores and the Steelers, and you're going to say, they're pretty stable, but there's San Francisco's liable to change. Chicago's liable to change.
Chicago will change.
The Jets liable to change.
New Orleans is changing. I mean, Breeze retired.
There's going to be a whole different look as far as quarterbacks. The Colts trying to get Wentz from Philadelphia. That means Philadelphia may make a change or going to make a change.
Well, Hurts will be their quarterback probably going forward.
Maybe.
New coach,
right.
Different situation.
There's going to be quite a revolving door at quarterback in the NFL in the next year.
And we're not part of it.
So you think
there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks drafted this year?
It's a great quarterback class this year. Definitely. I mean, if you were a quarterback needy team and you're in the top or middle of this draft, this was the draft you needed to get a quarterback. This is it. Like, again, that's why I said I don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do, because Pittsburgh could surprise people, trade up, try to get a Justin Fields or somebody like that. But maybe they don't need a trade. I think some names are going to fall down too. It's gonna. I mean, the only thing we know is Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. That's
Well, we know that.
But as far as where will Zach Wilson of BYU go, where will Justin Fields go? There's been rumors Miami might make a chase because they look at Tua and went, I don't know if he's the answer. You know what? I said that when they drafted him. Because just it wasn't the lefty thing. Partially it was an Alabama thing because they don't produce pro quarter. They don't, like Ohio State doesn't either. They're great programs, but they do not produce pro quarterbacks like that. And just watching him, it's like, okay, he's good, and he's small. He looked bigger in college, but he's smaller. You watch him in the NFL. But I mean, I think you look back at it, they definitely should have picked Herbert from the Chargers. There, it would have been a better. I think they would have been in the playoffs if they would have done that.
That's another team that may have another quarterback next year. It might be
Chargers.
No.
Oh,
Miami.
Miami. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
It might be the Houston quarterback. Who knows?
Could be. It could be. And he would do well there, which would probably send to Houston. Yeah.
So we'll see how it shakes out. But it's I mentioned earlier that I want to in my sweet spot, and that is first off in softball. I want to make a plug for the men's softball league. That we are blessed in our area to have a league that caters to older fellas. Now, back in the day, in the 70s and 80s, there was a softball game on every field every night.
Well, yeah, I remember those days.
It was softball heaven, and unfortunately, those fields now, if you drive past Summit Lake. You drive past Firestone Stadium.
Well, Summit Lake, the transformer box blew one year, and they never fixed it.
It sits empty. The fields are empty everywhere you go, and except for the Silver League softball, which is a league catered for men, and there's divisions from 43 to infinity. So. Any age if you're 60, if you're 70, I got back into it when I was 60. I hadn't played for a while. I had played baseball when I was 40, and I got back into it, and it was a league.
You played in the Roy Hobbs leagues then?
I played Roy Hobbs when I was 40, and we had a pretty good team. But anyway, as a matter of fact, they're trying to get me to play baseball again, and I said, I don't think I want to do that. But anyway, back to softball. If you have any desire to play softball in a men's league where our games are played on the south east side of Canton at Willard Field off of Route 62, 43 and up, there's a league for you. All you needed to go is online, go to Silver League Softball. There's a registration available now. It's reasonable. It costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $75 or so, and we play as many as 20 to 25 games, 43 and up in different divisions. I play in the.
Is this a doubleheader league, or is this?
The younger men play double headers. I play every Monday and every Wednesday in the mornings. I play in a league that's 60 and above, and I play in a league that's 70 above. And you can drop down and play. So
I can drop down to the 40 class?
If you wanted to, you could compete against the 43-year-olds if you wanted to. I don't want any part of that myself. But it's called Silver League Softball. It's a website called Silver League Softball. The registration's online. The league rules are online. And we make it easy for anybody. If you can't run anymore, if you can make it to first base, we'll get a sub runner for you in the older divisions. And I don't have to run if I don't want to. If I get to first base, I get me a.
But you got to get to first base first.
You got to get the first base stuff.
I don't know if I can get down the line.
Again, Silver League Softball. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of camaraderie, and it's still there available for you silver-haired fellas.
Well, I'm not there yet. Okay, I'm not there yet. So it's silverleaguesoftball.com.
Yes, Silver League Softball, and online, and the registration is there. So take a look at it. Where registration is open. Our league starts in May, the first week of May, and we play all the way through August or so. You get 20, 25 games or more. So,
But we're talking about the old times. I remember going down to watch a lot of softball at old Firestone Stadium. Down there, of course, that's where the Akron Softball Hall of Fame is at Firestone
Correct.
Stadium. I've
Correct.
been in there a couple times and seen that.
and there's a lot of those Hall of Famers that still participate in our league.
In the league.
Whether they're playing or umpiring, they're still there, and more and more every year. Hey, I want to.
Let's talk about your car thing.
Let's do the car thing.
Let's do the car.
And
Speaking of car things, on this date, 19, I forget what it is, Richard Petty won his second back-to-back Daytona 500.
That's
That
right,
was-
that's coming up, isn't that?
That's today.
That
That's today.
No, the
the,
Daytona 500. I mean,
that was last.
That was
it was
last
Sunday.
week.
who won
It
it?
was Sunday. A guy McDowell,
McDowell. Yeah, see, I quit paying attention when all the cool people left.
and there was a caution. They put him in the front, and he was able to hold off, and he was able to win. When Petty ran, it was a stock car, and again they were true stock.
They were still cars, yeah.
And it drove people into the dealers. If you
1974.
If you won the race on Sunday, people went to the dealerships on money to buy those kind of cars, and you could buy that car because it was stock cars, and it started way back in the 40s.
The moonshining.
And you mentioned moonshine, and I'll tell you what, there was a direct connection to those good old boys that raced down in the southeast and moonshine. And then when they were not racing, they had hot cars and they were running away from the feds.
The cop would load it down with moonshine.
There was
the rednecks.
You maybe have heard the product named Edelbrock, a very famous product when it comes to performance cars, Edelbrock manifolds. Well, I talked to Vic Edelbrock, and the owner of Edelbrock Manifolds at Summit Racing some years ago, and his dad had a shop in Southern California, and was making and adapting manifolds for the flathead Ford V8 for the racetracks in Southern California, and there was a lot of racing in the early 50s in Southern California, which was one of a hotbed for drag strips in Southern California. He was contacted by some good old boys in the southeast. They wanted this contraption he was making to be able to convert a flathead Ford carburetor from a single two barrel to two barrels. They wanted that manifold, and he was more than happy to make those manifolds and ship them to those guys in the southeast. What he didn't know is these were moonshiner cars.
Ooh.
And they were being, what they want to do is put this flathead Ford that they would outrun the police cars, who had no chance to stay up with those flathead V8s because they were all running 6 cylinders or straight 8s. That's what they had back then. And that was the beginning of Edelbrock manifolds. And then, of course, it became huge. Just recently, by the way, they moved out of California because of restrictions and taxes and so forth. And they moved their plant to Texas, which a lot of other companies have done recently as well. But that was kind of a neat little story. He was a garage rat around his dad in the shop and ended up being the owner of the company. And that racing that took place in one of the original tracks in Daytona used Highway 1 and the beach.
Yeah, they used to run on the beach.
They ran on the beach. They used the road, and then they turned around and they raced on the sand,
Right.
back and forth. And that was the original Daytona race. And those very early, even before those flathead V8s, believe it or not, the Hudson Hornet was the class and one of the fastest cars there were. Great big bathtub, ugly thing, but it had this big, powerful engine in it, and it was a dominant car.
My grandfather had an old Hudson.
That was before the Pettys of this world. We were fortunate enough in our area that we had a group of youngsters from Garfield High School. They had a club at the high school. They called themselves Cam Jammers. That was the club name. And these were a bunch of youngsters that were souping up cars and illegally racing on the street. And they wanted to find a place where they could legally race. And there was a few places around. There was one at Barberton, that's where the Magic City Shopping Center was. That's where Arlen Vanke got his start.
Okay.
Racing right there in that area. And at the Akron Derby Downs. Shorty Fulton was always looking to make money for the Akron Fulton Airport, so he invited the Cam Jammers and Odie Smith, which was the youngsters went to him, and he was the first president of the Cam Jammers, to begin racing at Akron Fulton Airport. And they raced on the Derby Downs Road, which is a tiny little 2-lane road that runs right next to the Derby Downs. There was a almost quarter-mile straight, and that's where they raced every Sunday. And then once a month, they went out onto the airport and used one of the runways on the airport to race once a month.
I heard about this.
Well, that track was the first NHRA sanctioned track east of the Mississippi.
Oh, really?
Right here in Akron, Ohio.
And you're talking about the old George Washington Boulevard and the hangar. That little side road that's right there in front.
That little tiny road that runs into Derby Downs. That's where they raced. Again, no edges, just a tiny 2-lane road. That, by the way, at the end of it, made a drastic turn left and went up to the hill.
Yep.
And then that was Massillon Road at the time, and it ended up dumping over as you went up and around. It went over and crossed over Canton Road. And the Arfons had a jet engine that couldn't get stopped because he only had drum brakes on the back of his contraption.
That's the Green Monster.
And he went the Green Monster, and he went up over that hill and across Canton Road before he could finally get the thing stopped. Again, great heritage, great racing, and it all started. The first sanctioned NHRA track east of the Mississippi started right there at Akron Airport. So a little bit of history.
I got pictures. I was probably about 13. I got pictures of me sitting in the Green Monster, and because my dad worked for Arfon, Walton Art.
Walton Art.
Yeah, he worked for them. And he helped work on the Green Monster. So I got pictures of that.
Walton Art, after the war, went in business. They were buying surplus. They had a grits mill and in a farm, and they were buying surplus airplane parts and engines. As a matter of fact, Walt was a daredevil pilot. He flew a plane underneath a bridge viaduct. By the way, Walt did. They were at the airport one Sunday with their mother, and they saw this big crowd at the airport, and they thought there was an accident. So they drove over and they saw this racing. They saw these guys in these jalopies driving up and down the street. They said, "Hey, we could do that. We could do that." So they went back to the grits mill. They put together a frame of a truck. They strapped one of their Allison airplane motors onto the frame of that truck, and brought it back over, and started racing. That's how the Green Monster started, by the way. They painted that frame John Deere green because that's what they had on the farm. The announcer said, "Arfon, get that Green Monster over here." Thus the name, and it stuck.
Now he held the land speed record for a while, and then of course what was it, Craig
Breedlove had all the money in the world from California, and he took it. But it was Walt had it for a second, Art had it for a while, and Breedlove, and it was a race back and forth.
Was the Spirit of America wasn't Breedlove's car?
That was Breedlove's car. Yeah. And Walt had a jet engine, and then Walt put together and bought a Army surplus jet engine, strapped it onto the frame. As a matter of fact, tied it down to trees and started it up and caused a fire and burned down a chicken shed on his property. And that's how the Green Monster got started.
Now, years later, didn't they go on like the jet trucks?
yes.
truck pools and stuff like that?
Yeah, they took the
I remember my dad telling us all about
they
this.
took
'cause he worked for him.
the jet turbine engines, put them into tractors, and did exhibition tractor pulls, and along with his son and his daughter, and they would go out and do expeditions. As a matter of fact, his son still has a connection with NASCAR. The big trucks, the machines that drive the track at rain delays, are jet engines, and his son does that for a living.
Really?
He drives the tracks for NASCAR. So that's a little bit of some of the stories of racing.
I think, of course, I know the Arfons are both gone, but I think the shop's still there on Pickle Road.
Shop's still there.
Pickle Road in Springfield.
The son still has it, and there's been talk maybe of a museum sometime. Our friend Bob Jones, that has a car display here in Akron, has one of the Green Monsters on display. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, a group of us got together, raised some money, and we got a Ohio historical plaque installed at Akron Fulton Airport
I remember that happening.
We had a huge gathering. It was a very successful event, and we got Odie Smith, both of the Arfons, and Arlen Vanke on that plaque, and remembrance of all those great guys that participated in racing, and a lot of heritage of racing here in our area.
Now, Odie Smith, he owned Odie Speed Shop there
Yes.
in Kenmore.
Yes.
Yeah,
And he was very instrumental in racing and in performance engines in our area, and made a lot of people very successful in our area from racing, and Summit Racing grew out of that whole culture. Summit Racing, one of the biggest employers
Come to think
in
of it,
our county.
I remember when Summit Racing was over there in Talmadge on a little Kennedy Road, sitting back off along the expressway.
Yeah.
Now it's a big old place there on the expressway.
He started his business as a mail order, special order parts in his basement. That's the way that that guy got started, and they're one of the largest employees in our area. So
I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that's a great story. We get a lot here in the Akron area. Is people starting small in their garage or their basement and making it bigger. Not sports related, but that's how Earthquaker Devices, a worldwide known guitar pedal company in Akron, got started too. Just in somebody's basement, and they were making parts and just for friends. Sold a couple on eBay, and the whole thing just blew up to something big.
Speaking of small businesses that made it big, is Gojo. Started in Akron in a maintenance shop in Akron at one of the tire factories. They took some kerosene and whipped it up. Took a mixer like you would mix paint, and took kerosene and mixed it, and it turned into this creamy stuff. Well, they were using the kerosene to wash the lamp black off of their hands from the tire factories.
I didn't know kerosene. Is kerosene in that stuff?
That's what Gojo is kerosene.
I never knew that.
Whipped kerosene. Of course, there's some other things involved in it, but basically, it was if you leave Gojo set, it goes back to kerosene. Basically, if you open a Gojo after it sits for a long time, it turns to liquid again, and it looks just like kerosene. Well, that's what it was initially, was whipped kerosene. And now, of course, because of the pandemic, the Gojo's nice, but the Perel is in such large demand they can't keep up with it. But a perfect example of a small little thing that developed in the maintenance shop, and because of the rubber factories before Summit Racing. If you needed a part for your race car, you had to make it, because they weren't. If you needed an adapter for a car, you had to make it. So it was made in the small machine shops around town that were associated with the rubber shop. So there's a lot of stories I could spend the next week telling you about all of them. But we'll get back to regular sports here.
There's a lot of history in Akron. And look, racing is a sport, and it's big here. It was big here in Akron.
It was.
We had a lot of little local stock car tracks around. Of course, we had Barber Speedway.
One of the earlier ones was in Salem, Ohio, and Quaker City.
Quaker
was
City?
there. Dragway 42.
That's where my dad raced a lot, was Quaker City.
Magnolia. There was a track in Youngstown.
Well,
There was a lot of them.
You had a
around here.
little dirt track in Canton Speedway, which was in Waco. Waco down there. We went there when we were kids. I remember that.
I still think there should be a NASCAR track sometime in Akron, but that's just me. We got to go to our second break. I appreciate all this information. This is all kinds of fun stuff about racing and whatnot. We'll talk about that and more in our last half hour of the show tonight. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in 5 minutes here at PolymerCityRecords.com.
All these blues. This morning the blues walked in like a man. All these blues. The blues walked in like a man. Wear it blues. Give me your right hand. All the blues is a lowdown and a shaking chill. Yeah, it's preaching now. If you ain't never had 'em, I hope you never will. When I preach these blues, you come on in, take your seat and sit on down. When I preach these blues, you come on in, take your seat and sit on down. And if the spirit moves you, if the spirit moves you, and if the spirit moves you, Lord, if the spirit moves you, jump straight up and down. Ah, let these blues is a low-down and an aching heart disease. Yeah, these blues is a low-down and an aching old heart disease. Like consumption, killing me by degrees. I can study the rain, or I drive my blues away. I've been studying the rain. I'm gonna drive my blues away. Going out to the distillery. Gonna stay out there all day. Up jumped the devil.
Welcome back to our last half hour of today's show at 10 Cent Beer Night here on PolymerCityRecords.com. A reminder, 10 Cent Beer Night is on PolymerCityRecords.com every Wednesday, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is our sports show out here. We've had a great show today with Baseball Bob and Handy Randy Lipscomb. Reminder quickly as we look ahead this week on sports, specifically basketball coming up. Cavaliers no game tonight. Too much COVID problems for the San Antonio Spurs. They'll reschedule with the Spurs there as they're working on their second half schedule with the NBA right now. They will play the Nuggets at home
on Friday night.
On Friday night there. For the Akron Zips, they won against Northern Illinois. We brought that up earlier.
Yeah,
they played barely, but they still won.
They still won though. But I'll tell you what,
W.
I watched the Northern Illinois came out hot. You know, it was halftime. They were 55% from the floor.
Right.
I mean, they wasn't missing nothing.
Right.
But anyway, Akron pulled out the victory, 81-75.
81-75. They will play Ball State at Ball State this Friday for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I forgot their name for a sec. They're playing very well. They're fourth in the nation. They will play Penn State tomorrow, and then the big one, that team up north that is third in the nation, they will go up there to Ann Arbor and play them.
They're playing them at Ohio.
Oh, it's at Ohio State.
Ohio
Okay,
State.
I thought it was at Ann
That'll
Arbor.
get them a number one seed. They win that
If
one.
they win that one, yeah.
As of right now, they've got Michigan and Ohio State as top seeds of
four
two of the
seeds.
four seeds.
Exactly. Big Ten's killing it in basketball this year. It sounds like Big Ten football over again, except Michigan's actually good at basketball.
You got of the top 5, 3 of them are Big Ten schools.
Right.
You got Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio State.
Exactly. So we'll see it. Maybe we could see Akron Zips play one of those in the big tournament when we get there. We're reaching it because Akron still has to play their
even
tournament.
if Akron wins the MAC, we'll
Right.
say they win the tournament, win the MAC, they're going to probably be a 16 seed.
Right.
That's the way the MAC is. I'm sorry. They
is.
always lower, and any given time, anybody can beat anybody. And the MAC's a very good conference. They can compete against anybody. From top to bottom, especially in the MAC, anybody beats anybody.
You know, Kent State almost beat Virginia early in
Right.
the season this year. So
Well,
the MAC is very competitive in basketball.
we only lost for 6 points to what is it? Providence?
Providence.
I can't remember yet. They didn't really play. Usually they play a couple big schools.
Well, that's
They-
because
they-
of this year.
Because of this year.
Unfortunately,
virus.
because of the pandemic, the Zips won the MAC last year, but there was no
Tournament.
tournament.
Right.
And they had a pretty good team last year. They've done well. That's one of the reasons I think Keith Dambach finally it was okay that he left, because he was very, very good coach. They did very well every year, but they just couldn't take that next step in the tournament.
Yeah.
And that's what they're lacking, is just one more step. And that is Toledo's in the way this year, though. Toledo's got a very good team.
But I will say in confidence, and this is not against Amber. I love Keith Amber. I wish him very well at Duquesne. John Gross has had a history of taking that next step.
Yes,
so they just need to see that out of him. And I'm just hoping that after the pandemic that he didn't miss his one shot. Because this year they could. I'm not ruling that, but last year's team was very special.
Except for Jackson, though. They got a very young team coming back next year.
They do.
Right.
And
That,
Jackson.
Trimble's a sophomore.
And speaking of Jackson, I want to congratulate him on the birth of his daughter. Him and his Heather had a baby girl.
So he's got 2 of the kids, I believe.
No, this
he's
is
got
his first one.
Okay,
His
my
first
bad,
one.
Lori, but awesome. Glad to hear it.
Lauren Christian Jackson.
That-
Obviously, one of the 2 or 3 top players in the MAC.
Well, he was
5'8".
Yeah, he was the MAC Player of the Year last
He
year.
might be one of the best zips of all time. I wouldn't even go
Yeah,
as far as
5'8".
5'8". He could drive that basket. It reminds me of Isaiah Thomas. There, the one that when he showed up to play for the Cavs, he kind of didn't show up. But when he was with Boston, he tore it up. You know.
And Trimble, his running mate, and also a smaller guy, shoots 43% from the 3-point arc.
Yeah, he hits him.
And he's only a sophomore. So
And
they've
you
got the
Reese-
potential.
Reese, who was a transfer from I can't remember school. A big 10
school.
Big school, yeah, big school. He's transferred. He's a junior, so he'll be back next year.
They've got some talent, and they've definitely have the potential to
And-
win
and
to
Dawson-
win a tournament, especially playing in Cleveland,
right.
because that's like a home court for the Zips for
And
some reason.
I kind of hope they open some of that up to the. I mean, family comes first.
They are opening it up to fans. I got an email today from the Canton Charge that I can buy MAC playoff tickets.
That's
Oh.
excellent.
And so,
I'm glad to hear
so
that.
if you guys would be interested, let me know. I can call down there and tell Jan, we need tickets.
Yeah.
But I think it's an all game pass for the 2 days is $75. You see,
That makes sense.
All games.
Wow, that's a bargain.
Because they're only taking used to be when it was in divisions, they took all 12 teams made it, but this year only 8's gone.
All right.
The top 8 of the standings. They got all in one standing. The top 8 will go to the MAC tournament. So not everybody's going like it normally happens every year. Everybody's thrown in the pack.
And if somebody has home games to
Speaking of that, it looks like the baseball playoffs will be expanded as well. I think that they're going to
For
go
college?
some of the
No.
Major League.
I think they're going to
Yeah.
keep that extra wild card
Extra
team like
wild
they did
card.
last year.
It worked
I like
worked well.
that. I like that. Speaking of baseball, we didn't tell you, Randy, while we were on break. I showed Bob, and Bob wanted to bring it up. While we were on break in the show, news came out from ESPN. The San Diego Padres have agreed to a 14-year, $340 million extension to Fernando Tatis Jr. Bob, what were your thoughts on that one?
That's too much.
Too much.
That's too much.
Hey,
If you can get it, get it. But
Yeah.
that's
I'm
football
shocked.
players are just making so much money. But 14 years, that's a shocker.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is okay. I knew he was going to get $300 million contract. He's one of the biggest young stars in the game. Mike Trout got one. Bryce Harper got one. Why wouldn't he get one? And which, by the way, if you're the New York Mets, you're even more mad because now that has set the bar higher for Lindor. But that's their problem now.
Right. Well, Tatis is pretty young though, isn't he? 22.
Yeah, he's young now. He's
So
looking
if
at
he
a couple
goes the whole
years.
contract, he'll be 36 when the contract expires.
Right.
Which that'll be tough. That'll be tough to be competitive at 36. LeBron was able to do it. He's an exception to the rule.
That's basketball, though. You're not hitting a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. And I'm not saying basketball's not tough, but there is a difference. There's a major difference. And the other thing too, in basketball, you can bounce back easier than you can in baseball. You know what I mean? Like, you have a slow start to baseball in the beginning of the season, that could almost set the rest of your season. I mean, that's just how it is.
Well, these long contracts have ended up biting these guys on the butts, like Pujols for the Angels.
Oh, that was
and Detroit is saddled still.
You remember,
Miguel Cabrera,
you and I
yeah.
remember
Most
a
of that was
contract
worth
the
it, though.
Indians did a long time ago. A 10-year deal with a guy named Wayne Garland
For $1 million.
for $1 million. He played 1 year,
Yeah.
and he was geared. We're talking. This is the late '70s.
But that was absurd for the Indians to spend that much money.
That was money in the '70s. Last place, pretty much last place team. But he comes in, he plays 1 year with us. He gets hurt. He's done. We guaranteed the contract.
Who's the guy with the Mets that gets paid? He's retired. He's been retired for a while. He gets paid $1 million some a year. One day. One specific day of the year.
I forget
Because his agent set it up where the last 18 years
Right.
after retirement or something.
Yeah, it was all back. It was all back.
That ain't
loaded.
Darryl Strawberry, is it?
No.
But it was all back. Hey, God bless the agent for negotiating.
Yeah,
that deal.
what an incredible deal. I gotta look that up there, but
that's funny.
but that to me, because that Tatis deal reminds me of other than the money, reminds me of a hockey deal because they'll go 7-10 years in a deal that usually they stay with that team.
But
Obviously,
hockey guys usually stay with those teams. Very few of those guys jump around from team to team. I mean, they might, if it's a 5-6 year deal, they're there for 5 or 6 years. Hockey's one of those a sport that it just don't seem like they get rid of them. I mean, they're going to play the whole contract in one city. When you're free agency, if you want to negotiate and go, that's when you're going to go. Hockey's like that.
Bobby Bonilla.
Is
his name. He hasn't played since '99,
and he still gets paid.
He still gets paid.
Where's that? How do I get a job like that?
And I'm looking at how long because it doesn't have too much longer to go. He gets paid $1.7 million a year. It's one specific date. I'm trying.
And again, they signed him and they made it all backloaded. They said we're not going to give you a lot, but we're going to.
It's up. It's up. It ended in 2011. That's how they set it
So
up.
he went how many years getting paid? From 92, you said?
He hasn't played since 99.
99.
So he's had like 12 years
12
of an extra.
years.
Yeah, just sitting there and
just
then
sitting there collecting a check.
Exactly.
Oh God, I wish. Where did I get a job like that?
Well, start hitting the ball.
It's a little bit too late for us, Bob.
I could never.
It's
hit
too
the
late
ball.
for me.
That's why. That's the reason why I don't play.
Let know you
That
guys.
was my
But
worst thing about. Very good defensive catcher, but I couldn't hit the ball with crap.
And that's the thing. It's like I'm gonna miss Lindor and Cleveland, but you kind of can't blame ownership when you got deals like that. Like you're putting in 14 years, 300 some million. I mean, and look at you were talking about Pujols. Look at a recent situation. Bryce Harper's not panning out
looking at
in Philly. It's bad.
You're looking at San Diego, which is a major city.
Right.
I mean, that's not a mid-market team.
Right.
That's a lot of money out there in the California area. You know, they can afford. You'll never see that happen in Cleveland.
No.
Or Cincinnati.
This is their best player
Or
in team
Milwaukee.
since Tony Gwynn played. It just because they've been kind of out of it for a while.
They're loaded with talent. The only
Yeah.
problem is that's a huge stadium, and it's tough to hit for power in that stadium.
In San Diego.
San Diego.
Petco Park.
Yeah.
There you go. I've always wanted to visit it. I've never had anything against.
But there's never a bad day in San Diego. It's
Yeah, that's
always
why.
the weather's always great.
Because I remember, I never seen Presco, but I seen old Jack Murphy Stadium years ago when I was stationed years ago.
It's 80 degrees every day in San Diego.
Yeah, but I was stationed in San Diego for about 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
Weather's perfect.
Weather's perfect.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't speak the language, but it was.
So there you go. So yeah, that's some big news coming out of baseball there. Like we're excited to have baseball begin, but that's a big. I didn't think that was happening for another few years. I mean, again, we're talking about a rookie contract still. He was in his second year.
There are a lot of real good shortstops. You talk about setting the bar high for Frankie. It's going to make it tough for some other teams as well in that shortstop position. And again, it comes back to the way we started the conversation this evening: is the rich get rich, the poor get poor, and it makes it even more difficult for that. Now, this year, I think we're going to see a leveling as far as salaries are concerned. Mm-hmm. The Indians will be right back in that market in their $100 million range. 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
They'll be back up into that range again, even if it is Dolan as an owner, because he's done it before, and I don't see that he won't do it again. It would be nice if Bezos, the guy that owned Amazon, that sold Amazon, be nice to see him. He wants to own an NFL team. He says, "Hey, we got a major league team that we'd like to see him buy."
I think if you want to have that conversation, because I think Dolan will be here for another couple years. He's going to try the new name change, sit with it, see if it works or not. Not sure if it will, but that's up for debate at another time.
Well, 2023, the naming right. I mean, the lease with the stadium is up.
It's up, yeah.
So
that's when I think
that's where we're gonna. If anything's gonna change, it's gonna be that year.
Right. I see. Mark Cuban has said for years he wanted the Rangers bad, did not pull it off. They gave it to it was a group, but the head man was Was it Sandy Koufax? No. Rangers pitcher used to beat up on Robin Ventura. It's slipping my name. Physically beat Robin Ventura. He charged the mound. And he was one of the best in the game, and I can't
Ryan?
think.
I think Nolan.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan. Yeah,
Nolan Ryan.
he owns them.
He's part owner with that franchise.
He's part owner. We've seen it where recently, for the Miami Marlins, Derek Jeter bought them with Bush, other Bush brother,
Jed.
Yeah, because George already had
the Rangers.
He had the Rangers. That's what he was up for commissioner. I don't know if you knew that because of his presidential experience and part owner. He was if they wanted to make him commissioner, he could have. But he would have no matter how you thought of him as a president, he would have respected the game more than Manfred has. I think he would have protected the game more. But if you've already been president for 8 years, you probably don't want to be a commissioner of a
I don't know. I'd like to be commissioner.
But after all the stress of being a world leader, you probably just want to just have a Budweiser on Texas branch.
You ever notice those guys that become president? They they go in there with dark hair. They all leave with gray hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even if it's 4 years or even 4 years,
Yeah.
Of course, even if you look, you can see the wear and tear on Trump.
He got bigger. He had a gut on
you
him.
can tell he ain't good, but
Yeah, but
you can just see the wear and tear on his face and stuff. That it really got to
that's
him.
probably the
And
most
I think
stressful job.
I hate to say this, and I'm not being political, but a lot of the wear and tear came from the other party. Because they was always on him.
It tends to come from all kinds of areas. You got to figure there's other countries you have to deal with, whether you want to deal with them or not.
Like I said, even Obama, he's great.
Yeah, he got great.
He's gray hair now.
Bush, even after 9/11, forget the second term. Look at after 9, but he was all kind of like, no wrinkles, kind of early 50s, and then he's like almost dead looking, kind of just sitting there. But he owned a team. That's why we're bringing the politics of. He owned a team. I know there's talk about Obama wants to own owner of a basketball team.
I just wanted somebody that's not afraid to spend a little money.
Right.
Like the Cavaliers owner.
Yeah.
Someone that's not afraid to spread the cash around. And here's my take on Dolan. He paid $323 million for that.
Billion or million?
$323 million is what he bought the team for. The team now is worth in the neighborhood of $1.3 billion. So he has earned $1 billion by owning the team.
He has some money.
If I own a home, I have to maintain and make improvements on my home.
Right.
He's made himself $1 billion just by owning the team. Don't tell me that plain poverty with me. And woe is me, I'm not making any money. No, you made $1 billion. And spend a little bit.
The thing I will say that has surprised me too about it, because I'm not a fan either. I agree completely what you're saying. There's money somewhere. Is how he has able to establish a fantastic front office and managing staff that love it there. Because usually when you look at the Dolans, the other part of the family with the Knicks, it's a mess.
It's a mess.
Nobody wants to be there right now. But with the Indians, like Antonetti supposedly got other offers from nicer cities than Cleveland. Same thing with the general manager, Mike Sharonoff. They said, we love it here. We're not going to leave.
Well, Billy Beane was offered big money to go to Boston from what he did the Moneyball, and he did the and figured out how to win, and he turned it down as well.
Right.
He stayed in Oakland.
For me, I think Billy's a little overrated. He had that one moment, and here's the reason why.
Hey, I got to give him credit.
I know, but here's
it worked.
Look at a couple years ago. They were the number one team record-wise in the league, and he traded all his hitting for pitching, and his idea was, if you correct, it was Jeff Samardzija, that lefty just left the Cubs. He was with the Red Sox for years. John, he played against the Indians in the World Series. There was another Red Sox pitcher. He had 3 great pitchers he traded for. His ideology was, if I can pitch so good they can't hit. Basically, the Indians right now. That's what he was. And they didn't make the playoffs. They went from best team in the league after the All-Star break to missing the playoffs. And that was an example of why, even if the guy's not going to stay, Why didn't you get some hitting out of those trades? I mean, he traded left to right.
But again, small market team that competes every year.
Right.
You got to give him credit. Give the Indians credit. It's a small market team that has been competitive over the years on a very limited budget.
See, a lot of people don't understand it. Oakland is a small market team.
It is. They don't get the
And
They
they've
don't
got-
got the Anaheim. The Anaheim is a large market team.
And a terrible facility. A
Yeah,
terrible
right.
facility.
See, Oakland's isn't great either. They don't have the draw. It's
Oakland
huge.
wants a new stadium. They've been trying. And a lot of people think there's a possibility of Oakland someday moving to Las Vegas. That's talk.
That's big. Again, again, if different
Because-
sports.
Don't be surprised.
Because of the stadium problem.
Right.
That stadium's so obsolete, and they're seeing all these other teams building new stadiums. We can't get one here in Oakland.
But I love that movie, and one of my
Moneyball?
favorite baseball movies, and a lot of good ones. I Love the Game is very good, and The Field of Dreams is very
We had
good.
a list a couple
But-
weeks ago.
but-
A couple weeks ago, we talked about
Moneyball, and the way that Billy Bean and he interacted and buying runs and buying on base and all that, and
Well,
how that
that-
equated. You can't do that in football.
Well, that kid-
you can't do it in basketball.
the
but
kid
you
that had
can
that
do it in
idea
baseball.
of the logistics of it. He's from Cleveland.
Right?
No, he works for the Browns. He's not.
He works for the Browns now. Yeah.
Is he from Cleveland though? Because I know he works.
He's from Cleveland.
Mike
Billy Bean found him in Cleveland.
Yeah, DePotesta, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're bringing. Like you were saying, you can't do it in football, and you can't, but that's why they're doing the analytics move, because he's the one that said, hire Kevin Stefanski. This is why the analytics make sense. This is what the players are saying about him, all this kind of stuff, and they went, no, we're going to get Freddie Kitchens, which Stefanski revealed recently was actually a blessing in disguise, because he took that year learning from Gary Kubiak, a Super Bowl winning coach. And he said, I used a lot of what he taught me that one year that the Browns didn't hire me to use for the Browns when they hired. So it ended up, but we had to basically, Jimmy has him as a sacrificing contract to get a better one. But
Well, I think the Browns team is doing a lot better since Haslam pretty much been staying behind the scenes.
Exactly.
He's not into things anymore. And he just stays behind his...
But he'll whip out his checkbook if you need it. He'll write a check.
Exactly.
He'll write
Unlike Dolan, he will write. He will sign somebody, spend some money, and that's where I think we're going to have issues until we get an owner that's got deep pockets.
Right. Gilbert, what you brought up Gilbert earlier, he was rumored years ago in the mid-2000s when Eric Wedge was there. Now we know that Gilbert, he kind of wants to go back home. He's going to keep the Cavs up. Rumor has it till LeBron retires. That's just a rumor. But I don't think he's going to be in the talks to get the Indians if they go for sale here.
You think LeBron might be interested in ownership in the Cavaliers someday?
I do believe that. I believe that's already been talked.
I really believe LeBron's going to finish his career back in Cleveland.
It could have, but I see him as the Cavs. So I think he wants to own a team.
That because of his son.
I think he wants to own a team. He wants to get the limelight situation out of his system, being L.A. and Miami when he was down there. So he's going to come back home and he's going to produce a winner. Because he wants to own. I don't think he wants to coach. People keep talking about coach. I don't think he wants that stress. He wants to own it. I think he's a better businessman than that certain man that's birthday's today. He had the shot. He has all those championships. You know what I'm talking about. Just not a great owner down there in Charlotte.
Right. But I will say this. There is a little bit of behind-the-scenes back and forth between LeBron and Jordan.
Oh, of course.
Back and forth.
They're
and Jordan just happened to bring out his movie about himself at the same time LeBron's winning a championship in Los Angeles. Coincidence? No.
That's an interesting, because what I was told, what I heard, and you might still be right, it's all a mix of it, that LeBron, Kobe, James Harden, and all these stars try to talk Michael and is like, do it for us, do it for the other fans. And then when Kobe died, that's where he said, okay, we're going to release this documentary. Because he was like, I wish he would have saw it, kind of like. But yeah, they did push it. They pushed it for years and years.
To do that.
You got to tell your
Release
story,
it.
yeah. And
they had it. It's been on tape.
Yeah.
But
he knew what the reaction was going to be, and the reaction was like, wow, this guy's a dick. But I think we pretty much knew that at a time. And I have nothing against Jordan. He was a great player. And I think actually...
I think he was the greatest ever.
talking about the Cleveland curse situations, I think the shot's actually overrated because has he missed it, we're still in the series against them. This wasn't. If it was a series definer, I think you can put it in, but they always just throw it in there. But it's like, look, if he misses it, you have another game against them. You could have lost big time the next. You know what I mean? And I always thought that one was a little overrated.
Who's the shot over?
Was it Price?
Craig Elo.
Craig Elo.
Okay, I couldn't remember. But, yeah, I mean, it was a great shot. It is one of his best of all time. But does the Orlando Magic have the shot with LeBron? But no, they won that series. But it's, it's just one. Does the Bulls have the shot with LeBron too? Because remember, they take a 2-0 lead in that series, and it's different in 15. But
LeBron makes that shot in the corner.
LeBron makes that over Derrick Rose. It's a whole other... So we could go on and on about that, but it's like...
But I honestly think there's a little bit of back and forth with those two. And there always will be. And there will always be that debate as to, is Jordan the best ever? Is LeBron GOAT? I don't know. I kind of think Jabbar.
Jabbar.
When it comes to basketball players.
Bill Russell.
Well, people forget...
some great...
Was it Bruce Bowen? I think so. He's got 7 championships, and he made a comment when Brady won his 7th, and he said, "Oh, now you're tired with me." Because
Otto Graham.
Otto Graham's got some, but no, Bruce Bowen. He didn't play football, but he played for several teams that. Oh no, it was Robert Horry, not Bruce Bowen. Excuse me. Horry, yeah, with the Houston, with San Antonio. He won 7 championships in his life.
Yeah, Bill Russell won 11.
There, yeah.
With Boston.
I mean, there's all kinds of GOATs out there. That's why the question came yesterday. ESPN was asking, who are the GOATs they're showing? I'm glad they showed LeBron in the Cavs jersey when he won that championship because that pretty much solidified where you could kind of put him in that conversation. Because the ones in Miami, they count, they're good, but when he came back home and ended the streak, and how he ended it, that was kind of bigger. I don't know, we'll be debating for a while, but I think the other debate we're bringing in, and I don't know if you're been paying attention to high school basketball, Randy, but we have another kid here in Akron that's big compared to LeBron James. So that's
kid from Bucknell?
Yep.
Livingston.
So I bring it up because that debate started when they said there's a kid in Akron, he's kind of like Jordan. Now we have a kid from Akron kind of like LeBron. Now I think he's only getting compared to LeBron because he's from Akron. I think he's very good. I
haven't seen him.
I see.
I've a chance, Sam.
I've said on here I see more Kobe than LeBron. Because he's more offensive explosion. Because LeBron was on both sides. This guy, not bad on defense, but not what LeBron was on defense. You know, or LeBron's son's very much like he was on defense and passing. Where this guy, he scores like Kobe does. Similar even to Jordan, if you want to go that far. But he can fly to the basket.
My question is he 6'8", 230 pounds, where he's going to be able to play any position?
He's 6
like
foot.
Magic did.
He's 6'6", ain't he?
He's 6'6". Yeah, he was.
Well, he's going to grow a little more.
He was when he was ranked. He was 6'2".
He's only a junior.
Yeah, he was 6'2". They looked at point guard, shooting guard. Now they're saying small forward, and he's not done growing. They might even be talking power, depending how much more he grows. So the answer to your question is we don't know yet because he's not done growing. But he is growing.
From this area is from East.
Yeah.
There's a kid from East that they're saying these are probably the 2 best to come out of Akron since LeBron.
Right. It's great to hear.
That's we have 2.
I can't think of his name right now, but the kid from East. I know they're high on this kid.
Akron's had some great basketball over the years.
Yeah.
Gus Johnson and Nate Thurmond started the ball rolling. But
we brought it up, and he didn't even know who Gus Johnson was.
Well, I didn't. He's a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
He was just amazing. He was Magic. He played the ball, played the game like Magic played the game. He was could jump and athletic and just an astounding player.
And I would have loved to see those 2 play because they played together with Joe Sigford down at Central.
Yes,
the old Central
Wildcats.
Wildcats.
And Nate Thurmond. Just an astounding player in himself. So Akron's been blessed with a lot of great talent.
He didn't grow up here, but Steph Curry was born at Summa. And
yeah.
So it's same doctor, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. the same doctor pulled him and LeBron out. That's what I meant, same doctor. Yeah, not Nate Thurman's, but LeBron. Yeah, he said we knew Steph's dad because he played for Cleveland at the time, so we knew he could be a potential basketball player. But he said when I delivered LeBron, we had no idea.
My mother, when he opened the show, which was talking about my mother celebrating her 100th birthday. When she was a young lady in Elkins, West Virginia, there was a coach at Davis and Elkins College.
I played against them when I was at Fairmont.
by the name of Press Marovich, and my mother dated Press Marovich. And now think about this: if you connect the dots, if my mother would have married Press Marovich, that would have maybe made me in a position to be Pete Maravich.
You would have been Pete Maravich.
I'd be dead. There is another. If you ever want to watch highlights of a basketball player that was beyond capable of everything, is Pete Maravich.
Yeah,
you talk about a highlight of highlights was Pete Maravich, and he did his scoring before the 3-point rule.
Exactly.
He was amazing.
They call him Pistol Pete.
His passing was remarkable, and again, unfortunately, he played on a lesser team, like Manning, like Archie Manning.
Archie Manning, yeah. Hey, we're out of time today. Randy, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
down. We had a
I
lot of
enjoyed
fun
it. Thank
today.
you.
A lot of good stuff on racing and all our favorite teams. So you're welcome to come back if anytime in the future.
Well, maybe not
when the
in a
weather's
blizzard.
warmer.
Maybe not in a blizzard.
No, yeah. So, but just open invitation.
Okay,
we
thank you,
really
guys.
enjoyed your time
Thank
here.
you, folks, for having me.
No problem. We'll be back next Wednesday, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time here at PolymerCityRecords.com. I'm Seth.
I'm Bob.
Randy.
You have a good night. Go Cavs.
Go Zips.